Hi, everybody. My name is Doug Peck, and welcome to our show, Southborough Connects. I am currently the chairperson of the Southborough Council on Aging. Uh, I know that many of you, when you think of the Council on Aging, you think of the Senior Center. The Council on Aging oversees actually the Senior Center, but has other responsibilities as well. Part of our mission is to advocate for seniors. We are one of the largest segments of the population in Southborough. Out of roughly 10,000 people, there are 2,300 of us over 60, and we are growing at a double-digit rate. Um, I have a very interesting guest today, Moira Allen. I am part of her network called the Pass It On Network that is actually worldwide. And one of the things I wanted to do today, one of the reasons for bringing her on board, uh, is to really show you the extent of the not the problem about seniors themselves, how they are affecting the world in various different countries where the Pass It On network is. So, welcome, Moira, today to the show. We're really happy to have you here with the advantages of Zoom. Moira is in Paris, just to give you an example of how far the network reaches. So, welcome, Moira. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of why the Pass It On network?
Thank you so much, Doug. I'm delighted to be here with you. I'm used to seeing you on our multi-screen when
I
we
know.
our regular webinars. Just a few words about myself so you know who you're talking to. My name is Moira Allen. I'm South African by birth. I lived there until I was about 32. And then circumstances brought me to France for 2 years, and I'm still here. Oh my goodness, I made all sorts of decisions on the temporary, and it's not a good basis. But anyway, I love living in France, and it's a very central point to do all sorts of activities. My apartment is right near the Eiffel Tower, so we're busy bracing for the Olympics.
Yeah.
I'm literally in the red zone, but
Oh.
that's very interesting. And I stay with my cat, Miss Tinkerbell, and I have a spare room, and it's always let out to some younger person, which keeps me young and keeps me in the swim as far as that is concerned, and I really enjoy that. Well, let me just tell you now the Pass It On network and what it's about. Pass it on, first of all. What is it? What are we passing on? And what we are passing on is something completely indefinable and unique. It's unique to everyone who comes into our network and every senior person and every person during their whole lifetime. It's that essence of you. It's that something that you have developed. It's your empathy. It's your smile. It's your gratitude. It's what you can pass on to someone else. Experience, of course, training, of course, all these kind of things. But how you come across in the world and how you work and affect other people. And that is just so very important. Our basic mission is self-advocacy. And there we are so admirative of what you're doing, Doug, because this is exactly what we're wanting to do. Seniors helping seniors. We really dislike this. In fact, we hesitate to use the word retirement because it's such a
Mhm.
negative word. It's withdrawal, it's pulling back, it's everything else. Whereas in our approach, and I'm sure in your approach as well, the whole idea is that we are entering into a new season of our lives. And it's a new season that has never really existed in this quantity, if I can put it that way.
Right.
What has happened is we've always been living this three-stage life: education, career, and then retirement. And today the lifespan has spread. And Stanford University, as you well know, has been publishing and making a lot of traction with its 100-year life plan. So
Mhm.
this just shows us how much we need to change the paradigm around aging. We're not written off when we get to retirement age. We're freed up to move into a new phase and a new phase of our development. So our mission then is self-advocacy, first of all, to stand up for ourselves and learn how to advocate for ourselves. And then it is also to advocate for the rights of older people. And more, it is a mission of trying to change that paradigm that society has of aging because of the longer lives that we are living and because over above everything because of the demographic shift, which is just absolutely incredible, and that is completely overwhelming. So how do we do all of this? First of all, very simply, we have a newsletter that's called the Pioneers, PION, Pass It On Network. So Pion sounds awful when you just retract it. so we've added ear to pioneer because we actually really do feel that we are pioneering a new phase of life, like you are, like every other senior throughout the world is doing. We have our pioneer newsletter. It's called the Gazette. We have our 50/50 webinars on a regular basis, monthly. And those are always so exciting because you open up the screen and there's somebody from New Zealand and somebody from Vienna and somebody from Argentina, somebody from South Africa, people from Canada, people from the US. And this is what grips everybody, is this opportunity to find out and to have the opportunity of exchanging with other people about what's happening in their neck of the woods. So that basically is our Pass It On network. We're a flat network. We don't have a hierarchy. We see ourselves primarily as being there to place and to put people into contact one with the other. And then very often they get into contact with each other independently because they have similar interests. We're not, excuse me, we're not a membership-based organization. So we don't ask people to pay us money. You can simply join our organization by subscribing through our website to our newsletter, and then you can come to our webinars and get our newsletter and make contact with people all over the world. So that in a nutshell is what the Pass It On network is. And I must just add that we have pioneers in 65 countries around the world. And that's so interesting.
It is, because you're right. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and some of us have many more seniors than even we do in the United States. I know there are countries in Europe and Japan that have larger cohorts, even at where we are at over 60, over 70, over 80. And they're doing some really interesting things. Everybody has a different approach to things. Has there been any a few countries that are doing some things that you think are really sort of exceptional right now,
Well,
or different?
We're very interested in Japan because Japan has got it's the oldest country in the whole world. And we have, in fact, right at this moment, one of our pioneers who is in Japan, and he is following a workshop on Japan's methods of caregiving. And he's going to be giving us reports on what they've seen and how Japan is adjusting. But one of the things that I find very interesting about Japan is that they have approached this from a government structural point of view. They have rearranged their government departments to line up with a country that is losing its population. I think one of the things that people just don't seem to realize very much these days is the fact that we are absolutely living through a demographic shift. And this demographic shift, combined with the digitalization and the climate, these trends are kind of, I don't know how to put it, but they're kind of, spiraling up and having such a dramatic interest on all of us. And digitalization gets a lot of attention. Climate does as well. And now more and more people are aware of the demographic shift. Yesterday, I attended the launch by the OECD of a report on how you can get companies to maintain people in employment.
Hmm.
And that was so interesting. It was just really fascinating. For example, we had one company there who was telling the story that they're a major electronics company in France. And they said they've always prided themselves on the loyalty of their staff. So they're now confronting the situation where they have about 30, 30 people, major key people who've been there for 30 years, and they're all coming to retirement age at exactly the same time. So
Yeah,
they're freaking out. All of this
yeah,
competence and all of this information is going to go out the door when they go out the door. So
right.
they're really applying their minds to how they can use these people in the best possible sense of the word to train the younger people that they're leaving behind. And this is becoming a really major issue throughout the world.
It is.
Is
It
on
is.
this, at this conference there were people from the UK government and people from Austria, people from Holland, and the governments are really worried about this. I mean, they need to be worried because there is a lack of people, qualified people. And you've got the kind of double trend: people going off on retirement,
Hmm.
and then people not being upskilled to be
Right,
able to cope with all these technological changes. So
right.
we really are living through a massive, massive revolution, and
Yeah,
everybody's trying to cope with it in their own ways.
yeah. I've seen it here in one other venue. My wife retired this year, and she was she was an elementary kindergarten teacher, uh, but in her school of grades K through 2, there are 5 teachers retiring next year. And that's a huge amount in a small school like that.
Sure.
Bringing in new teachers that they're, I mean, they're well educated, but they just don't have that experience of working with kids that you get after you've been with them 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. It's not about new ideas. It's really about working with the families that have all new concerns right now, and just the intangibles of having worked for that long, because you see a lot of special ed students. It's a whole new ball game for, I think, a lot of these teachers and certainly a lot of these schools. So it's going
Oh
to have some
no,
dramatic effects.
it's absolutely enormous, and I was stunned yesterday at this conference at the importance, because I followed the OECD's work and they've been working on it, but there was a new urgency in the way they
Mhm.
were presenting the whole thing.
Yes.
It's really, I don't know, we human beings, we have the art of kind of, it's important, it's important, it's important, but you'll get down to it tomorrow because it's not right in your face. And
Right.
it is now right in the faces of people. But I pick up on
It
what you said
is.
for your wife and where she's working, because one of the points that they brought up in this meeting yesterday was the whole issue of changing the paradigm radically
Hmm.
and starting with early childhood development,
Yes.
teaching children the life course, because these kids are going to live 100 years.
Right.
So you
Right.
have to get them used to that whole idea of you're not going to have your education in one big block and then you're going to say become a doctor and then you're going to be a doctor for
Hmm.
the rest of your life, because everything's changing to such a great extent that you have to program your reskilling all the way along your career. And that
It's
that has to be instilled in the child.
hmm
And
it's very true.
you really do have to work very hard on that. And the other point that came out very strongly in this conference was the whole nature of so many older people would love to carry on working.
Hmm.
and for different motivations. Some of them need to financially, and others just would like to because they reached the summum of their experience and they don't want to just go away. And
Hmm.
the big factor that the companies are now really thinking about bringing in is flexibility.
Hmm.
So the whole worry about, yes, if we keep all these top people and they earn the top salaries, they're going to, carry on costing us a lot of money. But if that time is reduced and somebody wants to work, say, 3 days a week as opposed to 5 days a week, there's
Hmm.
another way around it. So I'm not saying that everybody's going to do that, but I am saying that it is recognized as one of the big hazards of not keeping people in work because there isn't enough flexibility, and we do want that flexibility as we get older.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the countries have to work it out. I think the government has to be involved. I don't think they have been as involved in the States here as much as in some others, but there are a lot of laws and restrictions that have to be dealt with so people can have that flexibility. You know,
Absolutely.
insurance, et cetera. There's all kinds of things that need to be, addressed so people can decide. You know, I I've had a physician. We call them PCPs over here, primary care physician, for probably over 15 years. He's retiring, and when I went to talk to him, there are other people in his group that are retiring because they all started about the same time and
Right.
they're all reaching a retirement age. So it's going to be another big turnover for a lot of people like myself who've been patients with him for a long time. Getting to know a new doctor is not an easy thing. And
No,
I would love it if they could have a way to say, all right, he's only going to be doing it 2 days a week or 3 days a week. But right now for a lot of people, it's sort of all or nothing, and it's
right.
not a good way that we're from where we are right now.
No,
You know,
no.
I
It's
also
just
know you have mentioned some things going on with the United Nations as well. Um,
right.
you
That's
have a
part
meeting
of
with them coming up. Yes.
Right, right. That's part of our advocating for the rights of older people. At the
Hmm.
United Nations, there is this open-ended working group on aging that's been going now for 15, 16 years. It came into being after the Madrid Plan, where it was adopted by all the countries in the world, the whole concept of promoting active aging,
Hmm.
because if you promote active aging, it's a preventive thing, and people remain active, and then they remain well, and etc. etc. So at that meeting in Madrid in 2002, it was decided to create a group that would examine what were the gaps between existing rights and the rights that weren't dealt with. So every year now they've been meeting and meeting and meeting and meeting. And it's a bit difficult to see where we're going with it. And this is now the fourth session. But I was in New York last year and I stood up and made a speech on behalf of my organization. And it was a little bit intimidating with all the countries and everything there, but still we tried to raise the voice of people, and I think that this is so important for everybody
Hmm.
in this field, because if you realize how many older people there are in the world, if we were all just to raise our voices, not necessarily in a militant fashion, but
Hmm.
just to be more present, more insistent, more asking, we'll get somewhere. But we cannot sit back passively, just letting everything happen. And I think that
Absolutely.
this will change, with the younger generations, the baby boomers, they're much more up, much more active, much more, how shall I say, up there wanting, saying what they want. And that is what is necessary. We're coming up in this year in 2024. There's something like 67 elections around the world, including the European Parliament, to which then you must add 27 countries. So it's something like 97 countries in the world are going through
Hmm.
democratic elections, democratic, yes or
Yeah.
no, elections. And really, especially in Europe, that's where I know the best, the number of people, of seniors who actually vote it's one of the biggest sectors. It's bigger than the young people.
Hmm.
So we have a right to claim from the parliamentarians who've been voted by our grey hairs to to get, to make our issue a major issue. And I think the more I'm into it right now, the more I think that we should be pleading and advocating for the whole issue around demographic change and
Right.
demographic shift, because that's less concentrated on age, because as soon as you say age or longevity or intergenerational, you immediately color the whole issue. Whereas
Hmm.
demographic shift, it concerns everybody. It
Right.
concerns,
It does.
how many children are growing up? Well, first of all, children that are not being born.
Hmm.
45% of the world's population today live in countries that are not reproducing their population.
Really?
It's amazing. It's
Wow.
absolutely amazing. So there are children that aren't being born, and then there are children that have been born, one child, maybe two children, and they're not growing up with siblings.
Hmm.
Just when I stop to think about that, it's mind-boggling. That's where
Yeah.
you're really made, with your brothers and sisters who knock the hell out of you, and then you stand up and fight for yourself, and you get shouted down, or whatever. But I mean, that's where you socialized,
Hmm.
and kids are growing up without that today. So many of them.
Yes. And the other thing they're growing up around here, because we have people, families are dispersed all across our country, and it's so much bigger than the countries in Europe, that they don't see their grandparents on a regular basis. They
Right.
maybe see them once a year, maybe twice a year, uh, but they don't get that experience of who is this older person? What is it like to be 60 or 70 or 80?
Mhm.
And now, I uh, we have a lot of clients who are in their 90s and very active, but we do have to self-advocate. One of the figures that I saw around the world is that there are over 900 million people over the age of 60
Yeah,
out
it's
of
amazing.
8.1 billion. It's a huge cohort.
And it's
But
growing.
I think we get some pushback because a lot of times people call us, I'll say us because I'm there, the silver
Sure.
tsunami. But that's the negative side of this cohort, because tsunamis are never good. It's a destructive force. And so
Exactly.
we have to advocate and show people that there are many positive things that we can do for the society at large. We do have to self-advocate. I think
No,
that's
absolutely.
really, really important.
It's extremely important. And to make people realize that it's not an us thing.
Hmm.
They're going to be there as well. As
Right.
I can find something. I read this the other day, and it was just so. I hope I can find it quickly. Yeah, listen to this. Dear friends, know as you pass by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, so you will be. So prepare yourself to follow me.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just, that's very powerful, because I didn't ever imagine myself as being an old lady, but here I am.
Uh, and I think we are now, because we are really the first that have lived this long as a cohort.
Right,
We all are role models for people coming up, because we know our kids are going to be that old or older. We know our grandkids could easily live over to 100, maybe to 125, but they have to see what older the models are. And that's one of our responsibilities, I think, as we get older, to be role
right.
models for the generation coming up. It's very important.
No, it's extremely important. And
Yeah.
nobody can do it for us. You know what I mean?
Right.
we have to just say it, and we have to say it in our own unique way, each one of
Hmm.
us.
Right.
And to everyone that we see and everyone that, but not going out there a flag, but just being. And in our being, transmit the energy, transmit the wisdom, transmit
Hmm.
the experience, and things like that. And
Hmm.
we really do need to do it to do it ourselves, because all the advertising or writing or whatever doesn't hit home. It's the authenticity of each individual's actions
Yes.
that will add up and make an impact.
Right. Because you're right. I mean, when you look at younger generations that are coming behind us, it's not what we say, it's what we do.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what they model, right? So
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I realized, I mean, it sounds stupid, but I realized that when I got married, my mother never taught me to housekeep.
yeah,
But when I got married and moved into my own place, it was just whatever she'd done, I did.
yeah,
It,
right.
it just came naturally. It didn't,
Yeah,
might be a silly example, but it is so right that we do not, we learn by the example of others.
right.
Right.
And that's who we need to be right now, as seniors or as elders, to be an example for others, for sure.
And I think, Doug, what is so important today is to generate a kind of enthusiasm and curiosity and a
Hmm.
faith in life. Because the
Absolutely.
youngsters, and I'm very involved with an organization in France called Old Up, and it's a fabulous organization. They were started 15 years ago by people in their second part of their retirement.
Hmm.
And their basic way of working, one of them is to have talking groups. So they
Hmm.
started off with a group for the 70-year-olds. Then, as they got older, they had to have one for the 80-year-olds. And now they've got groups for the 90-year-olds.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
amazing how that whole thing is. And their whole approach is to find the usefulness in longevity,
yes,
the sense and the usefulness in longevity. And it's really just so interesting.
yeah. Because I think everybody really, no matter what their age, needs to feel useful,
Oh,
needs to feel that they're still here for some reason, you know.
right.
So it's
Absolutely.
interesting. Well,
But
believe it or
just
not, our
the
half
final
hour
thing
is
on that,
coming to an
we
end.
can't, yeah, nobody's going to come and look for us.
Right,
We have to be there.
right. Yeah. Because one of the effects of ageism is that you kind of become invisible as you get older.
Right.
And so it's up to you to maintain your visibility to the world, to your
That's right.
society, to your family. You know. Well, listen,
Super.
thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate you taking your time and coming to talk to us a little bit about sort of what's going on in the world and giving us a little bit different perspective. So thank you. I'll see you at the next Pass It On meeting. So
Super. Thanks very much, Doug.
you're welcome.
And
And
bravo for all you're doing.
oh, you're welcome. And thank you, folks, for watching. And we're going to put contact information for the Pass It On Network will be at the end of this. So if you have any interest, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.